Today we are truly in an historic fight, a fight to protect one of the most treasured and revered of American values, our right to privacy. Make no mistake, our privacy has never been more in danger, and the American public knows it. The American public knows their privacy is in danger when their smart TVs can listen to your most intimate living room conversations, your conversations with your children, with your parents, with your spouse. The American public knows their privacy is in danger when it seems that every day there's a hack on the databases of one of our country's largest companies, Yahoo, Target, Home Depot, JP Morgan Chase. The American public knows their privacy is in danger when the Russian surveillance machine, firing on all cylinders, hacked the United States election, threatening to undermine our sacred democratic system. The American public knows their privacy is in danger when both chambers of Congress hold countless hearings, launch investigations, and receive briefings on the rapidly growing cybersecurity threat to our nation and the impact both on our national security and to the public. The American public wants us to do more to protect their privacy. The American public wants us to do more to protect their sensitive information. Yet, what do the Republicans here in Congress want to do today on the Senate floor? They want to make it easier for Americans' sensitive information to be used, shared, and sold without their permission. The Republicans today are seeking a vote on a Congressional Review Act resolution that would allow Comcast, Verizon, Charter, AT&T, and other broadband companies to take control away from consumers and relentlessly collect and sell their sensitive information without the consent of that family. That sensitive information is about your health, it's about your finances, even your children. They want to track your location and draw a map of where you shop, where you work, where you eat, where your children go to school, and then sell that information. Sell that information to data brokers or anyone else who wants to make a profit off of you. They want to document how many times you search online for heart disease, breast cancer, opioid addiction treatments, AIDS treatment, and then sell that information to your insurance company. They want to know what games your teenagers play or shows they watch so that they can then target ads to your family. And all of this done without your consent. What the Republicans are bringing to the floor here today is going to basically change the definition of ISP from Internet Service Provider. It would then stand for information sold for profit. It will stand for invading subscriber privacy. President Trump himself is outraged when fake violations of his own privacy. But we should all be alarmed by this very real violation of privacy that will occur here today if the Senate decides to roll back these important consumer protections. Here on the Senate floor, the Republicans are fighting to make it easier for your broadband provider to use and sell that same type of information. Remarkably detailed and sensitive dossiers of information about you, your kids, your parents, your grandparents, 320 million Americans. The Republicans are trying to rescind the Federal Communications Commission's broadband privacy rules, which simply require your cable, wireless, and telephone company provider to obtain consumer consent before using or sharing the subscriber's personal information. Promote transparency by disclosing what they collect about internet and wireless users and adopt data security protections and notify consumers if a breach occurs. That's it. That's what this whole debate is all about, whether consumers, not the broadband providers, have control over their sensitive information. Now, the big broadband companies and their Republican allies say we need a light touch regulatory framework to protect Americans' broadband privacy. A light touch approach, like the Federal Trade Commission, which doesn't prescribe actual privacy rules. The Federal Trade Commission only enforces the privacy policies companies create for themselves. And then they bring enforcement action if a company violates their own very low standards. But if Comcast or AT&T or Verizon's policy is you have no privacy, there's nothing for anyone to enforce. It would be impossible for the internet service provider to violate their own non-existent or very low privacy protections. Let's be clear here. When the broadband behemoths say light touch, they mean hands off. They mean hands off their ability to monetize captive consumers' sensitive information. Let's be clear. When the big broadband barons and their Republican allies are firing their opening salvo in the war on net neutrality, and they want broadband privacy protections to be the first victim. When Republicans say we need to harmonize regulations, they really mean self-regulation. And self-regulation is the ultimate dream of Republicans beholden to those special interests. They really want to allow broadband companies to write their own privacy rules. Is this really what the American public wants? A harmonized, light-touch approach to protecting their sensitive information from their broadband provider? Does the American public really want us to allow our broadband companies to ignore reasonable data security practices, making consumers' sensitive information more vulnerable to breaches and unauthorized access? Well, this resolution does just that. The internet service providers even oppose following reasonable data security practices. We should know better. The American public wants us to strengthen our privacy protections, not weaken them. The American people do not want their sensitive information collected, used, and sold by any third party, whether that be your broadband provider or a hacker. At its core, this debate is about our values as a people, our values as a society. And while technology has certainly changed, our core values have not changed as a country. For generations, we have valued the right to choose who we let into our home, who we communicate with, who we share our most sensitive secrets with. But now, the Republicans and the broadband industry are telling us that we must forego those rights just because our homes are connected to the internet and our phones are connected to the internet. With many Americans across the country having only a couple of broadband providers at most to choose from, they won't have the option of changing service providers if their privacy protections are not transparent or robust. And throughout it all, while the internet service providers monetize your personal information, the monthly bill will continue to show up for the service that is siphoning off your sensitive information. My colleagues, we know the attack on the free and open internet is coming. Net neutrality is on the chopping block. And this is their first step to ensure the few and the powerful control the internet. We must stop this today. So I urge my colleagues to join with me. The fundamental principle here is that every person should have the knowledge that information is being gathered about their family when they use the internet. 2, that they have notice from the company that that information is going to be resold to a third party, to someone else, not the broadband company. And that 3rd, you have the right to say no, that you don't want that information to be resold about your family member. When we were all younger and the salesman came to the front door and knocked, your mother told you to tell the salesman that they could not come into the house, that the privacy of your family did not warrant allowing a stranger into your home. The broadband companies now say, well, we're in your home and we've wired every room, and we now have the right to take all of the information of your family and sell it. What sites did your children go onto? What sites did you go onto to look for help for the disease that someone in your family might have? Now, the broadband companies say, they're coming right through the front door. They're going into every room in your house. And the American people have the right to say what they've always said. No, you cannot take those secrets of our family. You cannot take how we use that information. And so this vote that we're about to take in the next couple of hours out here on the Senate floor goes right to the heart of who we are. And if we hear more about the Russians, we hear more about companies whose information have been hacked, and then the Republicans decide, well, they're crying their crocodile tears about the compromise of the privacy of people in our country, then come out here and take all of the information online in the family and allow it to be sold as a product. And that is just fundamentally wrong. It goes contrary to the values of our country. So I urge very strongly a no vote. And the members of the Senate, this will be a vote that is remembered. This is the privacy vote of all time out here on the Senate floor, of all time, because there's never been anything like the internet going into our homes. No one should be allowed to take all that information and just sell it without getting your permission. Mr. President, I urge a no vote on this resolution, and I yield back the balance of my time.
Mr. President.